My name's Dave Dubeau, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content.
All right, guys, welcome to Property Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Kaminsky, filling in for Dave Dubeau. And have you ever wondered how a busy physician from New Jersey became a successful real estate investor in Columbus, Ohio? Well, today my guest, Avishkar Sabharwal, is here to share his journey of balancing the world of medicine with lucrative real estate venture. Avishkar, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Bryce. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So, can you walk us through what inspired you to transition from being a physician to diving into the real estate investing world?
Yeah, when I came here, we obviously, we come and obviously physicians make good money. But the problem is with the physician salary comes the huge tax burden that we have to kind of face. And so most of the income that we make actually goes away in taxes. That's my largest expense, right? Even right now. And I wanted to get to a point where I could have certain assets that could be cash flowing so that I could cut some hours off of my physician work, because it is really grueling. Takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of energy. And even though I love it,
And
I wanted to
focus
practice.
too.
Yeah, but I wanted to practice it on my terms. And so right now what ends up happening is that I'm basically, running around basically trading my time for money. And so I wanted to create a situation where I'm not necessarily trading my time for money. So I'm able to practice it and enjoy this more. And I think that's true for any, high net worth individual, anybody has a high paying W-2, like we're all kind of trading our time for money. Not that we don't enjoy doing what we're doing. It's just that sometimes we don't want to do certain things, and sometimes but you're like, I still have to be here. So I wanted to
I got to
practice
do that
medicine on my
extra
own terms.
14-hour shift,
Exactly.
and, I was talking to another physician who's also moving into the real estate space. And um, one of his big things was to like try to get more physicians into real estate to avoid burnout, because like that's a huge thing in the medical field, especially in the States, especially after COVID, is just a shortage. Like you guys are working even more. And when you're earning so much through the W-2, it's not like, oh, I'm making so much more. It's like, no, the government just now is gonna come and take their piece. So yeah, definitely real estate investing seems to be investing in general. And I think a lot of people, like you were saying, in the high net worth area, um, are looking for investment types as the economy gets hard. Like back in the days, like, oh God, I'm a doctor, make a lot of money, I'm going to be a doctor, and someone's managing my finances. But now it's like people are taking it back into their own hands, hitting the stock market, investing in syndications, or doing the work themselves. So, with the real estate, how long have you been in the real estate, and what kind of got you to that idea?
So, even back in India, so I'm originally from India. So even back in India, my parents were investing in real estate. And of course, the way they invest in India is very different from how we invest here in the US.
Mm.
And so I kind of always knew that I wanted to be in the real estate space, but I didn't know how. And so I was actually attending a free virtual summit, and I came across this physician couple, and they were talking about how they had invested in real estate. And I was like, this is what I need. I need to get some training, get some mentorship. Because as a physician, I've been in medical school, I've been through
Mhm.
residency and whatever have you. I've been in training forever. So I needed to get some training program as to understand, how do I really do this? How do I look at these particular assets? How do I know if a deal is a good deal, right? So when I found these, they were a couple, that both of them were physicians. They've done pretty well for themselves, and I was lucky to have them as my mentors. And so I joined their program, learned a ton from there, and then that's kind of how I got started in this space.
So, with real estate, there's usually some challenges at the beginning, when you're learning and when you're trying to figure out, get your footing. Is there any sort of challenges that come to mind that you could share with us where you figured it out, overcame it? What's the story?
Man, real estate is full of challenges, and I think
Mhm.
I think you would agree with that. It's
Yeah.
something that it's an ongoing process, it's an ongoing journey, and really What I've realized over the last 4 or 5 years is that the game has to be won here in the mind before you actually even go and play the game, because it can be very, very challenging. It can be, it requires a lot of patience. And I'll give you an example. I'm actually going through that right now. So we had bought a quadplex in phenomenal deal, distressed asset. They wanted to get out of the sellers wanted to get out of the deal really good. The cash flow projections were phenomenal, right? So I buy this asset, and now, but this was a fire damaged building, right?
Okay.
So now this thing requires a ton of permits. I got some quotes from a contractor that I'd already worked with before. So I had an established relationship with this contractor team, with my property management and everything, because I'm an out of state investor, right? So they got out of the job. And after a while, part of it was kind of my fault, that I was like, okay, I have somebody else overseeing the project, my property management that I was paying for. But then the project never moved. It got stalled. And this was last year in February we started. And I checked in on them, I think in April, May or June, maybe August. And I was like, it's still down to the studs. Nothing's happened. What's going
Mhm.
on? And here I have a loan on this product, and
Yeah, you
I'm
got your burn rate.
trying to get this thing done. Right now, it's very easy to get flustered, very easy to get frustrated in that situation, start blaming people. The problem is, like, if you start blaming people in these situations, you have to handle these relationships very delicately, because as an out of state investor, I still need somebody to finish the project. I still need
Yeah.
people to do that, right? So we had a lot of conversations. Then we had to go back to the drawing board. Now we had to get permits for this. We had to get the architect involved. There was a huge mess with that. And believe it or not, we're still going through that project. And now we're kind of finally back on track. So something that should have taken me a few months has taken me over a year to finish, right? And so having that, the emotional capacity to withstand these kind of turmoils, these kind of ups and downs, is really critical to investing, and any sort of investing. I remember, I had once, what had happened was, this was when I was in residency, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try my hand at day trading. Right. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I think that was the time when Wolf of Wall Street had just come out or something. And I was like, yeah, man, I'm gonna try day trading, and I'm gonna make a lot of money on this. And within a day, I ended up losing, within a few hours, I ended up losing about $300. And
Hmm.
I realized at that time, and that's one of the main reasons why I actually pivoted to real estate, because I realized that I do not have the emotional capacity or the stamina to bear that short-term stress. Because what ends up happening in real estate is it's there, but it's prolonged, and you still have
Hmm.
time to move things around, and you can think and you can strategize. But with trading, that's not the case. Things happen in split seconds. And I realized that this is not the game that I want to play. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, so then real estate is the game that I want to play, because I have many more things that I can control, I can strategize, and I can do it in a very different way. And I think that holds true for, whether you're buying businesses, whether you're buying real estate, because essentially real estate works as a business as well. And so that's what I kind of, got from all of this, and some of the challenges that I faced. And I know that people go on the internet and they're like, yeah, I made X amount of money, and I did this with real estate and that with real estate. But I think that those are just the highlights. People don't realize that there's a lot of hard work and effort that goes into getting those highlights.
Yeah. Well, and I like what you said too, that it moves slowly, moves more slowly. And the other thing, when people are always bringing, people are always like, well, what about stocks? And I'm like, well, stocks go to zero and houses don't. So when houses start going to zero, then perhaps we can have a conversation about how they're similar. But, you know, there's at least, there's a lot of market manipulation, especially within investing on the stock market. And to some degree in real estate too, but it's far more complicated, far less like the speed, like you're talking about. So you can navigate that over a cycle, it might be this year, it might be 24 months. So when you look at investing, what drew you to the multifamily properties? A lot of people are like single family, but the multifamily, is it cash flow? Is it BRRRR? Like what drew you initially to the multifamily side of things?
Yeah, what happened was I didn't want to be in a single family space only because of the fact that if I lose one tenant, I'm losing 100% of the income coming in from that
Yeah.
single family, right? So that was the main reason why I wanted to shy away from single family. So how I started was with the smaller assets. The challenge was that it requires a lot of work to do these in the smaller assets. Um, and the returns are not as exciting to me as they would be with a larger asset, only because I make good money as a physician, and so for me to see, yes, percentage wise will make good money, but if you look at the absolute numbers, they're not like something to die for, right? That being said, there's some value in these smaller assets because there are many more of these smaller assets than the larger assets, right? There are many more ways you can buy these smaller assets than the larger assets. So I don't think that and I'm not discounting the smaller assets per se. I'm just saying that
Hmm.
it's a game that I chose not to play and I wanted to play in the larger game.
Yeah. So when looking at the multifamily, especially being an out-of-state investor, how do you manage the properties from a distance?
So, it's very crucial to have a team that you can rely on. But even more so than that, you have to keep, your eye on the ball. You cannot just say that, yeah, these guys are managing, they're doing a job, good job, and, I'm just going to relax and go
Hmm.
sip on margaritas on the beach. No, you got to still keep, make sure that you're following up with them. For the larger assets that we're looking to acquire in Columbus, Cincinnati, we actually have a person who's local on our team. As you know that, these larger assets that, larger multifamily, we require a team. It's not going to be a one man or one woman show, and you require a bunch of people doing this together. So one crucial thing is to have somebody who's local to that market. And so, having that local person who can keep an eye on it, do these random checks on your property, that's what helps you do it. Somebody who's looking at, smaller assets, where it's not necessarily going to be a team and you're looking to be an out of state investor, I would say having different people who are unrelated. For example, you have a property management team that you're working with, but having a contractor that's not necessarily been referred to you by the property management, maybe having
Hmm.
somebody else come in and look at it. And so maybe just paying them a little bit just to go and check in on the property once in a while. That is gives you a differing opinion. They can let you know, okay, this is what's going wrong. I think this is what needs to be done, and that can, they can be your eyes on the ground.
Yeah, it's kind of like on the whole medical side of things, a second opinion. I'm gonna get a second
Exactly.
opinion. Might as well see what the next guy thinks too. And if it's the same opinion two or three times, well, that's probably it. So when you look at it, with real estate, finding capital is often cited as a significant challenge for pretty much every real estate investor, except the ones who are like, I've got a bunch of money, I'm going to go play. And then they usually run out of money too. So can you share some strategies on how you've used, that's something you've used to raise capital for your deals so far?
As far as raising capital goes, I think really it starts with your network. And when I had
Mhm.
started, I'd heard this so many times. I'm sure you've heard this.
Your
Your
network is your
network
net
is
worth.
your network, right? And I was like, what does this mean? Like, what does it mean that my network is my net worth? I'm not freaking making money from my network. They're not paying my bills. I'm the one
Yeah.
freaking doing my job and paying my bills. But really what happens is when you have a good network of people who know, like, and trust you, or who you resonate with, right, they will come and help you in your project. And I've been blessed to have a good network, but it requires constant nurturing, it requires constant interaction with people, it requires talking to them, understanding what you can do for them, right, what value you can bring to them. So really starting with that whole go giver attitude, understanding that you need to provide value to people, is the key to actually raising capital. And I think that makes it a whole lot easier for you to achieve what you want to achieve.
Well, and I've helped numerous people raise capital through mentorship and just conversation, like people in my network. And some people do have better networks. I came out of the music industry, and if I call all those broke musicians, they don't have any money for me. But coming from the medical side of things, there might be a few people who might have a few dollars. So have you found it to be an advantage, or do you kind of shy away from that conversation?
No, I think it's essential to have that conversation. But I think, this is a common perception that people have that, physicians have a lot of money. And so a lot of times people will want to raise capital from physicians. But,
Hmm.
you got to understand that somebody who's become a physician, especially in this country, they have to take on a lot of debt. They
Yeah,
have to take on
huge
a
in the
lot of
States,
loans, right? So
especially.
they have those responsibilities to take care of, and nobody can discount that. The age at which a physician really starts earning good money is
45,
much later. It's
50.
much later than exactly. It's much later than when somebody else in any other field would start earning money, right? So
Hmm.
even though, yeah, they make good money, but there are a lot of other responsibilities that they need to take care of, right?
They have big debt
That's
management.
one thing. Yeah, and that's one thing. The other thing is, because there's been such a delay in earning money, right? You've got to respect the fact that they're going to be very careful. All of us are, even I am very careful about investing my capital, and I have to be protective about my capital, right? And
Hmm.
so respecting that, it's not like physicians have a lot of disposable income. Yes, they make a good living. Yes, they make good money, but at the same time, I think physicians are very risk averse, and that comes naturally to us
Interesting.
as physicians because we are in a profession where we need to make sure that we're doing everything possible for our patients, and so we are
Hmm.
naturally risk averse, and so understanding that point is really important as well.
So, with the importance of having that supportive network, how did you build your network and how has it contributed to your success?
It's like I said, it's about giving, giving, giving. It's really about how you can bring value to people. So you can bring value to people in numerous ways. And I would really recommend, if somebody who's new to raising capital and who really wants to learn how to build a good network, I would really recommend going and reading Keith Ferrazzi's book, Never Eat Alone. I don't know if you've read that book or you've heard of that book. Phenomenal book, really good book, really goes into a deep details of how you can actually give to people. Because what ends up happening is, when you're raising capital, our first inclination usually is, okay, what can this person do for me? How can I get capital from this person? And I think
Hmm.
it really, you have to change it. You have to see, okay, what can I do for this person that I don't even have to ask for capital?
Hmm.
And so when you change that mindset, it changes everything. Firstly, it takes the pressure off of capital raising, because they're gonna, you expect or you hope for them to deliver.
Hmm.
And secondly, you've built enough of a bandwidth that even if, say, somebody doesn't have capital, they might introduce you to somebody who has capital and who wants to deploy into your deal.
So, you made a bunch of great points. I hope people were listening because that was a little bit of a master class. If you missed that, rewind, listen to that again. But let's shift now to market insights and the factors that you consider. So what factors do you consider when selecting markets for real estate investment? We
Oh,
earlier we were
I
talking
think,
about
yeah.
Dallas and Columbus, but why did you choose Columbus, Ohio?
Man, Columbus is a phenomenal market. Now, I don't want everybody just jumping into
Hey,
Columbus
I'm
and
going. I'm on Realtor.com right now. Here, I'm going to search it up. Columbus, Ohio.
no, I
Oh,
think
I
some of
got a
the
deal.
things,
No, just kidding.
some things that you need to be, yeah, when you're choosing a market, some things that you need to think about are, what are the economics in that market. And really, it boils down to, okay, who are your real clients, right? When you're investing in real estate, say multifamily, who are your real clients? Your real clients are your
Tenants.
tenants, right? They're paying you uh, whatever you're earning. So something has to be in line with your tenant pool staying there, making
Hmm.
enough money
To
for
pay
them to
you.
pay you rent, right? So what's
Yeah.
going to be that? It's going to be
Is
enough
it
jobs.
Amazon? Is there enough jobs? Is there negative migration? Is the appreciation? Is it a depreciating market? Is it an appreciating market? Where is it in the cycle? So, as a physician, I'm sure you gathered all the data and looked at it and made the decision, this is the market. Any other markets that you looked at and said, nah,
Yeah, Cleveland. I don't invest in Cleveland for the reason that
you're
it's
breaking my heart. It's not
well, I
easy
looked
in
at
Cleveland,
Cleveland.
man. It's not easy. I get it. I get it 100%. It's not easy. It's not for
So
the faint of heart.
yeah, we don't look at Cleveland, and typically Midwest markets are, the stable markets. They stay
Mm.
steady. And so we're looking at Columbus, Indianapolis, and Cincinnati primarily
Yep.
as our
I like
markets that
Cincinnati.
are, yeah, they're good markets. I think, but my heart is in Columbus. I really love that market. really phenomenal market, a lot of growth, a lot of rent growth, a
Hmm.
lot of job diversity. I think one thing that people should look at is also the diversity of industries.
Mm.
They should be unrelated industries that are present in that same market, which you see in Columbus. It's a beautiful mix of different industries, because sometimes, the downturns are industry specific, unless there's a massive downturn like 2008 where everything's going down.
Yeah.
But usually you'll see these fluctuations where one market is going down, the other one's going up. And if you see a robust healthcare system, usually the healthcare systems are going to be recession resistant, right? And so having something like that is really, really helpful as well, which our markets have. So, that's
Yeah,
why
you
we kind
can't
of
be in
focus
like
on.
a one industry town, like a coal mine, and they shut down the mine and now everything's worthless, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So balancing a medical career and real estate investing must be demanding. They're both
It sure
can
is.
be very high time consumption. How do you manage your time effectively between the two?
When I started, obviously I was scrambling, and it's natural, right? When you're starting something, it's really hard to do it, and you need to spend hours on it. And just
Hmm.
like anybody who's a physician, you need to spend hours in medical school, years
Hmm.
in medical school before you become a physician, right? Before it becomes second nature to you. Um, Similar for real estate, I had to spend hours and hours learning this stuff, but I think something that helps is time blocking. I
Yeah.
actually went through this book called I'm mentioning a lot of books because I love going through a lot of books and learning from a lot of people who've already done this stuff.
Yeah, you can
So there's
collapse
this,
the time frame.
yeah, and there was this book called The 12-Week Year.
Oh
And I don't
yeah,
know if
that's
you've
been a really popular
really,
one. People have been talking about it.
really good book. I mean, it really helps you understand. I had gone through a bunch of stuff, right? There's the Eisenhower matrix on what you can do and how you do it. I tried that. It wasn't really resonating with me. Then I tried a bunch of other things. I had some apps that I had put on my phone. I tried that, but really, when I read this book, The 12-Week Year, it really kind of helped me understand, okay, this is what I need to do. This is how I need to do it. The other thing that I do is I make a plan for the week. And so there are two books actually, the 12-week year, and then there's the perfect work week. So these are the
Hmm.
two books that I recommend, and they go hand in hand, and they help you create a plan around how you want to maximize your time, right? How do you use every minute, every second of your day to achieve your goals? And so once you do that, but before you do that, you need to have clarity of what your goals are. What are you really trying to achieve? And once I had
Hmm.
that clarity, okay, this is what I want to achieve. This is the time frame that I want to achieve it in. Now I know what are my daily activities that I need to do, right?
Yeah,
And
'cause
then the other
sometimes
thing
we
is, like I
want to
said,
do things, right? But we don't know what things to do.
right. And so the other thing is time blocking, like I'd mentioned, like, you spend a few hours doing one thing, you'll gain a whole lot more momentum doing that thing, for extended period of time than shifting, between 10 different things every 15 minutes. Because you might feel like you've achieved a lot, but really you haven't achieved a lot. And so
No,
I
you got
think
to
those are the
dive
things
in.
that I would say. Yeah, those are the things that really helped me kind of accelerate my growth, catapult me to where I am.
So with, with multifamily, there's always investors. You're gonna have to raise capital. You've also got a project coming up in Dallas. I believe you had mentioned it was Dallas,
Yes.
correct, right? That's gonna
Yes,
need some significant capital. And, for people
absolutely.
to deliver significant capital, they have to like, know, and trust you. So what sort of
Correct.
ways are you able to build that with maybe social media or networking? How are you building that trust factor to raise I think you're talking about $20 million on in the Dallas deal.
Yeah, so I think the way to build trust, I think social media is good. It's good to have a presence, but I don't think it's enough to build that trust factor for anybody. I think it has to be that in-person conversation. It has to
Hmm.
be more than that. And I think there was a study done by Google on how many touch points they need. So there's a 7-11-4 rule. I think it's like seven
Hmm.
touch points across four different platforms across, I think, 11 different timelines, something like that. And
Hmm.
so you really need a lot of touch points to build that credibility. Of course, social media is helpful because it helps me get my name out there. And not only that, right? So the purpose of social media is not just about me, right?
Hmm.
My social media's purpose is to serve my audience. Why would they come to my content?
To watch you
Just
eat
it's not going
pizza.
to be just because it's me. It has to deliver something to my audience for them to realize, okay, this is this is helpful for me. This is what I want to get to. I'll give you an example. For example, I recorded a podcast episode. I also podcast. So, I have a podcast that goes out on YouTube. I recorded a podcast today with a guy who's a custodian for self-directed IRAs. Now, there's a very specific reason that I got these people on my podcast, because guess what? A lot of my investors would have retirement accounts they might want to invest through, right? Now, I want to be able to provide them with high quality information about that so that they can make more educated decisions,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's kind of stepping into your investor's feed or your client's feed and understanding what do they need and then delivering that. So I think it's not about how do I put my name out there? It's about what does my audience need and then delivering that.
Yeah, that's huge. So, when looking at the podcasting side of things, do you primarily do like real estate investors, or are you kind of on the investor side? Who's listening, and what should they expect?
So, primarily it's people who are physicians, because, my brand is the immigrant doctor. And so
Mm,
I try to help other immigrant physicians like myself invest passively into real estate. Because a lot of times, physicians are on visas. They may not, I face this challenge as well, right? When I was on a visa, I could not actively
yeah.
satisfy my entrepreneurial side. And so obviously
Hmm.
that needs, but I still want to invest passively, right? So I want to help them understand how can they invest passively, right? What are the avenues available to people, especially who are not from this country, because a lot of things people don't understand. I didn't understand a lot of this stuff, right?
Hmm.
So I want to help them understand this. And so, that's what I try to do with my podcast, is bring on guests so that people, my audience, can understand the concept of not only investing but also investing primarily in real estate much better, and so they can make much more confident decisions about uh, you know uh, investing passively in real estate. In fact, I created a free course on this. This is my shameless plug, but I did
Hey,
create
there's no
this
shame
free
on this.
course. But I did create a free course for passive investors so that they can understand how do you do due diligence on a particular deal? How do you do due diligence on a particular asset and a particular operator? And by operator, I mean somebody who actually presents a deal to you, because I know that a lot of people are pitching great, this deal is great and this deal is amazing. And in
Yep.
fact, I was recently pitched a deal myself. They were projecting phenomenal returns, phenomenal returns. They're like, oh, this is going to give me like 20-25% IRR, something like that.
Hmm.
And I had to go down and look at the numbers. And I looked at the reports and I was like, your numbers are false. I don't believe this. Right. And I said,
Yeah.
no, I'm not going to be a part of this deal. And so how do you look at that? How do you understand that? Because on paper, it's, especially, and you would appreciate this, is, in larger assets, a small tweak here and a small tweak there can make a significant change in the net outcome that they can project to investors. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, these are all projections. These are not, set in stone numbers, but you want your projections to be as close to what the actual thing is as possible. And so really understanding how do you do that, how do you understand that this operator is good or not. So I created a free course for all that. It's available at rerxcourse.com, and so people can go and check it out.
Yeah, that's awesome because, that's one thing we deal with in Canada a lot of times is we have a lot of what's called they're waiting for their PR, permanent residency. And they're under the impression that they can't invest because they're like, oh, well, I'm not a permanent resident. It's like, yes, and you might not be able to like hold title, but you got to get creative. You can invest prior to that. There's nothing stopping anyone like a Canadian such as myself, who's definitely not a permanent resident in the United States. I can get the paperwork and take a walk
Right.
and go on Zillow and find something and invest. It's so just understanding that. So that's a huge value for people. That you've put that together and you kind of break down some of those barriers because I'm a huge believer fear is usually a composition of unknown. Like
Correct.
we're not afraid of what we know, we're afraid of what we don't know, and that's really what keeps people stuck in indecision is that they just can't find it or aren't looking for it, and they'd rather just, well, I can't do it because XYZ, and they don't actually open the box and be like, is XYZ real? Is that actually a truth? And then you find out it's not true. It's like, oh, I can invest. Awesome. So breaking that down, that's huge. Now, if people want to find out more, they want to connect with you, what should they do? How do they find you?
So, on Instagram, I'm at the immigrant doctor, and you can put my Instagram handle over there. But really, I encourage people to learn more about how to do due diligence on, operators and deals. So they can go to rerxcourse.com and they can go into my video series, learn more about it. There's a downloadable PDF. They can go through it. And really, I would love to connect with them and learn about their goals and what they're trying to achieve one-on-one, because I think the best way to help somebody is to actually understand where they're stuck and what they want to achieve.
Yeah. Thinking about what they need instead of what you want is going to take you a lot farther in this world. Well, I really appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was a fun conversation.
Yeah, no problem. Until next time, guys, we'll catch you on the next episode.
Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.